10. From Gary, Indiana to global stardom. Michael Joseph Jackson was born on August 29, 1958, the eighth of 10 children in the Jackson family. His father, Joseph Jackson, worked at a steel mill, while his mother, Catherine, was a devout Jehovah's Witness who raised her children with deep faith. Their modest home in Gary, Indiana, was far from glamorous. Imagine a tiny two-bedroom house with 10 kids crammed inside, where dreams of fame and fortune seemed almost laughably out of reach. But what the Jackson family lacked in wealth, they made up for in ambition, discipline, and music. Joseph Jackson had his own band once, but when his career never took off, he turned his hopes toward his children. He recognized that they had talent, especially Michael. By the time Michael was 5 years old, his father noticed the spark. The boy had an extraordinary voice, natural rhythm, and an undeniable charisma that made him stand out even among his talented siblings. Joseph became strict, many say too strict, pushing his children through endless rehearsals. But this pressure created a group that would soon explode onto the national stage: the Jackson Five. The Jackson Five, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, and young Michael, burst onto the Motown scene in the late 60s. With Michael as the lead, their sound was fresh, energetic, and irresistible. Songs like I Want You Back, ABC, and I'll Be There became instant classics. Michael's voice, though still that of a child, carried soul and maturity beyond his years. And when you watched him perform, it wasn't just about singing. It was about presence. Michael had the ability to command a stage even at 10 years old, flashing that infectious smile, moving with a natural groove that seemed almost supernatural. Fans across America couldn't get enough. In fact, the Jackson Five were the first group in history to have their first 4 singles hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. That S. Right, they dared just enter the music industry. They dominated it right out of the gate. And at the center of it all was Michael, the boy from Gary, Indiana, who would become the king of pop. But there was also a cost to this early fame. Michael later revealed how his childhood was far from normal. While other kids played in the park, he spent endless hours rehearsing. He admitted to feeling lonely, isolated, and pressured by his father's strict methods. The spotlight gave him glory but stole his childhood. This tension between triumph and loss would follow him throughout his life. Still, the story of Michael A.'s rise from a cramped home in Gary to global superstardom is the foundation of his legend. It is a story that embodies the American dream. A poor kid who conquered the world with nothing but talent, discipline, and charisma. And that is why fact number 10 on our list is so important. It is not just about where Michael Jackson ended up, but where he started. Number 9. Thriller, the best-selling album of all time. If fact number 10 was about humble beginnings, fact number 9 is about reaching the absolute peak of global fame. Because when we talk about Michael Jackson, one album towers above everything else: Thriller. Released on November 30th, 1982, Thriller wasn't just a hit. It was a cultural revolution. Produced by Quincy Jones and featuring hits like Billie Jean, Beat It, and of course Thriller, the album shattered every expectation. To put it in perspective, Thriller has sold over 66 million copies worldwide, and that's a conservative estimate. Some say the number is closer to 100 million if you count every re-release and special edition. Either way, it remains the best-selling album of all time. But numbers only tell part of the story. The impact of Thriller went far beyond sales. Let's start with Billie Jean. That song not only topped the charts, it changed television history. When Michael performed it on Motown 25, Yesterday, Today, Forever, he introduced the world to a dance move that would become immortal: the moonwalk. In that single moment, Michael Jackson didn't just sing a song, he created a memory etched into pop culture forever. People still remember where they were the first time they saw him glide backward in defiance of gravity. Then there's Beat It, a rock-infused anthem featuring Eddie Van Halen's blistering guitar solo. That collaboration showed that Michael wasn't confined to one genre. He blended pop, soul, and rock seamlessly, tearing down the walls between audiences. Suddenly, kids who loved rock and kids who loved pop were dancing to the same beat. And we can't forget the title track, Thriller. This wasn't just a song. It was an event. The 14-minute music video, directed by John Landis, was more like a short horror film. Zombies, werewolves, dance choreography so sharp it still gives chills. Thriller redefined what a music video could be. In fact, it helped establish MTV as a cultural force, turning the channel into a global stage for music. Without Thriller, MTV might never have become what it was. But why did Thriller connect so deeply with people? One reason is timing. The early 80s were a moment of change. New technology, new music styles, new energy in youth culture. Michael captured that energy and turned it into sound and spectacle. Another reason is universality. These weren't just songs for one demographic. They were songs that transcended age, race, and nationality. Whether you were in New York, Tokyo, or Nairobi, Thriller spoke the universal language of rhythm and joy. The album's success also broke racial barriers. At the time, MTV was hesitant to play videos by black artists, but Thriller was so undeniable, so massive, that they couldn't ignore it. Michael forced open the door for other black musicians to be featured, changing the face of the music industry forever. In America, Thriller became more than an album. It became a cultural unifier. Imagine suburban teens blasting Beat It from their boomboxes, city kids practicing the moonwalk on sidewalks, and families crowding around TV screens for the Thriller video premiere. Everyone was part of the same cultural moment. Even today, decades later, Thriller hasn't lost its magic. Every Halloween, the title track resurfaces like a musical ghost, reminding us of its power. Every dance competition still references Michael's moves, and every time you hear Billie Jean's bass line, you can't help but tap your foot. So, fact number 9 is clear. Thriller isn't just the best-selling album of all time. It is the most influential, groundbreaking, and unforgettable musical statement ever made. It represents the moment when Michael Jackson became not just a superstar, but a legend who reshaped the cultural landscape forever. 8. The Moonwalk, redefining dance forever. If there is one single image that defines Michael Jackson beyond his music, it is the sight of him gliding backward across the stage in what looks like a physics-defying move, the moonwalk. Though the move existed in various street dance forms before Michael, it was his performance on May 16, 1983, during the Motown 25. Yesterday, Today, Forever TV special that transformed it from a niche street step into a global phenomenon. Picture it, Michael, dressed in a black sequin jacket, black pants with white socks, and that single glittering glove. The crowd is already going wild during Billie Jean. His voice is electric, his presence magnetic. And then, in one smooth instant, he leans forward while sliding backward. The audience gasps, screams, and erupts. In that moment, Michael Jackson didn't just dance, he rewrote the language of movement itself. What made the moonwalk so powerful wasn't just the mechanics of the step, but the illusion it created. Humans aren't supposed to move like that, yet Michael made it look effortless, like he was gliding on air. It wasn't merely a dance move, it was a metaphor. Michael wasn't bound by rules of gravity, genre, or expectation. He was showing the world that art could transcend physical limitations. The moonwalk became his signature, and he refined it in countless performances. Fans remember his breathtaking live shows, where entire stadiums of tens of thousands fell silent just to watch him slide across the stage. In America, kids practice the move in their bedrooms, scuffing their parents' floors, determined to capture even a fraction of that magic. Talent shows, school dances, and block parties all featured kids attempting to moonwalk, often hilariously failing, but always trying, because Michael had made it the ultimate move. And it wasn't just about entertainment. The moonwalk became part of American identity. It was shown on late-night talk shows, parodied in comedy sketches, and referenced in everything from cartoons to commercials. It crossed boundaries of culture, race, and class, uniting people in awe of one artist's ability to surprise and inspire. What's remarkable is that Michael never claimed to have invented the moonwalk. He admitted that street dancers inspired him, but it was his genius to take a small piece of underground culture and amplify it for the world. Just as Elvis borrowed from rhythm and blues, or the Beatles borrowed from American rock and roll, Michael elevated a move into something transcendent. Today, the moonwalk remains one of the most recognized dance moves ever. Even people who don't know Michael's full discography know the moonwalk. Professional dancers still analyze his technique. Magicians even study the illusion, fascinated by how the human body can trick the eye when perfectly synchronized with rhythm. So fact number 8 isn't just about a step. It's about how Michael Jackson turned dance into a universal language. With one move, he captured wonder, defied expectation, and cemented his place in history as the greatest performer the world has ever seen. The 7. Breaking racial barriers in the music industry. When Michael Jackson released Thriller, he didn't just top charts, he changed the face of the music industry forever. In the early 1980s, MTV was becoming the dominant platform for reaching young audiences. But there was a problem. The channel largely refused to play music videos by black artists. It wasn't official policy, but it was an open secret. MTV executives often claimed black music didn't fit their audience. Enter Michael Jackson. His videos for Billie Jean, Beat It, and Thriller were undeniable in quality, creativity, and popularity. They weren't just music videos, they were cinematic experiences. Quincy Jones, Michael's legendary producer, once called MTV's hesitation outrageous. But the truth was simple. The network couldn't ignore him. Michael's work was too good, and the demand was too high. When Billie Jean finally aired on MTV, it was more than just a music video. It was a moment of cultural justice. Suddenly, audiences across America saw a young black man not just as a performer, but as a superstar who could command global attention. And MTV quickly realized that Michael Jackson wasn't just fitting their audience. He was expanding it. The success of Thriller videos forced MTV to open its doors to other black artists. Prince, Whitney Houston, Lionel Richie, and countless others soon followed, reshaping the landscape of pop culture. Michael Jackson, in effect, broke the color line on television the way Jackie Robinson did in baseball. He didn't just succeed personally, he paved the way for generations to come. But this wasn't just about TV. It was about perception. In the United States during the early 80s, racial divisions were still deep. But Michael's music reached across those divides. Suburban white kids and inner-city black kids danced to the same beat. His concerts attracted audiences as diverse as the country itself. By being so good that no one could deny him, he built bridges through rhythm, fashion, and sheer charisma. One striking example of this was during his victory tour with the Jacksons in 1984. Stadiums packed with people from every background waving their arms in unison proved that Michael had tapped into something bigger than race, something human. In that way, he wasn't just an entertainer, he was a cultural ambassador, a symbol of possibility in a divided society. Even world leaders noticed. President Ronald Reagan invited Michael to the White House in 1984 to recognize his humanitarian work and influence. This wasn't just about music. It was about acknowledging his role as a unifier in a fractured time. And let's not forget the global dimension. Michael wasn't just breaking racial barriers in America. He was uniting cultures worldwide. From Tokyo to Lagos to São Paulo, his music resonated with people who didn't even speak English. His artistry was proof that rhythm, melody, and movement are universal. For young black Americans, seeing Michael on MTV meant seeing possibility. It meant knowing that talent could shine through prejudice, that creativity could open doors that had been locked for generations. Many of today's superstars, Beyoncé, Usher, The Weeknd, Bruno Mars, credit Michael not just as an influence but as a pathfinder who made their careers possible. So, fact number 7 is about more than chart success or awards. It's about courage. It is about an artist who refused to be boxed in by prejudice and who forced an entire industry to evolve. Michael Jackson didn't just entertain. He transformed culture. He turned music into a bridge, MTV into a mirror of diversity, and pop into a force for change. Circa 6, Neverland Ranch. A fairy tale and a fortress. When Michael Jackson imagined what his dream home would look like, he didn't picture a mansion with marble staircases or golden chandeliers. He pictured magic. He pictured the wonder of childhood, the freedom to play, dream, and escape. And so, in 1988, he purchased a sprawling piece of land in Santa Barbara County, California, and created what would become one of the most famous estates in the world, Neverland Ranch. Named after the mythical island from Peter Pan, where children never grow up, Neverland was more than a house. It was an entire amusement park, complete with roller coasters, a Ferris wheel, a zoo with exotic animals, a movie theater, and endless gardens. Imagine stepping onto a property where giraffes strolled across the lawn, elephants wandered in fenced fields, and miniature trains carried guests through landscapes of fantasy. Michael didn't just build a house, he built an escape from reality. For Michael, Neverland was deeply personal. His childhood, as we know, was taken from him by the pressures of fame. He once said, "I never really had a childhood." Neverland was his attempt to reclaim that sense of wonder and to share it with others. He often opened the ranch to sick and underprivileged children, giving them a chance to ride the rides, see the animals, and experience joy free of charge. In that sense, Neverland was both a sanctuary for him and a gift to others. But Neverland was also a fortress. At its peak, it had security systems, gates, and guards, because Michael's fame was so overwhelming that he needed protection from fans, paparazzi, and unfortunately, critics. It became both a paradise and a prison. The ranch quickly became a symbol of Michael Jackson's larger-than-life persona. The media described it as eccentric, fans saw it as magical, and critics used it to fuel speculation about his private life. Neverland was at the center of some of the biggest controversies of his career, but it was also a place of genuine kindness and generosity. Children who visited often recalled the joy they felt, the surreal experience of walking into what felt like Disneyland, only better. For Americans, Neverland represented Michael's dual nature, the superstar who lived beyond imagination, and the man who longed for innocence. It was an estate unlike any other, a reflection of his inner world. Some saw it as extravagant, others saw it as tragic, but everyone agreed on one thing: it was unforgettable. So, fact number 6 is about more than just property. Neverland Ranch was Michael Jackson's dream turned into reality, a place where fantasy and memory collided. It symbolized both the beauty and the cost of being the king of pop. Number 5, humanitarian work. The silent legacy. When people talk about Michael Jackson, they often focus on the music, the dance, or the controversies. But one of the most overlooked aspects of his life was his incredible humanitarian work. Behind the sequins and spotlights, Michael quietly gave away hundreds of millions of dollars to charities, hospitals, and causes around the world. In fact, the Guinness World Records recognized Michael Jackson as the most charitable pop star in history. He supported at least 39 charities directly, including UNICEF, the Make-A-Wish Foundation, the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation, the United Negro College Fund, and countless hospitals and orphanages. He donated both publicly and privately, sometimes making grand gestures and other times giving anonymously. One of the most powerful examples of his humanitarian work was the creation of Heal the World Foundation in 1992. The Foundation's mission was simple but profound: to improve the lives of children across the globe. Through it, Michael provided immunizations, fought drug abuse, and funded educational programs. He believed children were the future of the planet, and he dedicated enormous resources to ensuring they had hope. His concerts often doubled as humanitarian efforts. The Dangerous World Tour, for example, raised millions of dollars for charities. He frequently visited children's hospitals while on tour, meeting patients, signing autographs, and paying for treatments. Fans who met him in these settings often described how gentle and sincere he was, nothing like the distant superstar image painted by tabloids. One unforgettable moment came during the 1985 recording of We Are the World. Michael co-wrote the song with Lionel Richie as a response to famine in Africa. The project brought together dozens of the biggest names in music: Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross, Bruce Springsteen, Bob Dylan, and raised over $60 million for famine relief. When you listen to that song, you hear Michael's fingerprints all over it. His voice, his vision, and his belief in unity shined through. Michael's humanitarian work wasn't limited to big projects. He was known to quietly pay funeral expenses for strangers, cover the medical bills of fans, or invite entire groups of disadvantaged children to his shows. He once stopped at a hospital in Budapest and, upon learning they lacked proper equipment, donated millions for new technology. These weren't publicity stunts. Many of them never made the news until much later. In the United States, his philanthropy became part of his identity for fans who looked beyond headlines. African American communities admired how he gave back while representing success at the highest level. Global communities admired how he used his platform to bring attention to suffering far from Hollywood's spotlight. Critics sometimes dismissed his generosity as an attempt to polish his image, but those who worked alongside him insisted that it was genuine. His close friend Elizabeth Taylor once said, "Michael cares more about people than anyone I know." So, fact number 5 is about the side of Michael Jackson that deserves more recognition. Beyond the music videos and sold-out arenas, he was a man who gave relentlessly. His humanitarian legacy may not be as flashy as the moonwalk, but it is just as important. Because when the spotlight fades, what truly matters is the lives he touched, the hope he gave, and the difference he made. Yunker 4. Record-breaking awards and achievements. Michael Jackson wasn't just a popular musician. He was a record-breaking machine. His career was marked by milestones that most artists can only dream of, achievements that permanently changed the standards of success in the music industry. Let's start with the Grammy Awards. In 1984, during the 26th Annual Grammy Awards, Michael made history. Thanks to Thriller and Beat It, he won 8 Grammys in one night, a record that stood unmatched for decades. Imagine watching the broadcast. Every time an envelope was opened, it felt like Michael's name would be called. By the end of the night, he was holding so many trophies that his arms were practically full. That moment cemented him not only as the king of pop, but as the undisputed king of the music industry. But the Grammys were just one chapter. Michael Jackson won 13 Grammy Awards overall, including the prestigious Grammy Legend Award and the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. Beyond that, he earned 26 American Music Awards, 6 Brit Awards, and 5 Billboard Music Awards. The list goes on and on. Then there are the Guinness World Records. Michael holds multiple, including Most Successful Entertainer of All Time. His Thriller album alone gave him several entries, from best-selling album to best-selling video. He even set records for his concert tours, like the Bad World Tour, which drew millions of fans across the globe and shattered attendance records. One particularly striking achievement came during the 1993 Super Bowl halftime show. Before Michael, halftime shows were often low-key performances. But when he took the stage, he changed the game forever. Standing completely still for nearly 2 minutes as the crowd screamed, then bursting into a medley of hits, Michael created what many call the most iconic halftime show of all time. From then on, the Super Bowl halftime became a major cultural event, and every artist who followed, Beyoncé, Prince, Shakira, The Weeknd, was chasing the standard Michael set. In America, his awards weren't just numbers. They were cultural proof of his dominance. He became the first artist whose name alone guaranteed massive viewership, record sales, and sold-out stadiums. Every achievement became part of his legend, like chapters in a book of glory. What makes his awards especially significant is the diversity of recognition. He wasn't confined to pop charts. He was recognized in R&B, rock, music videos, and humanitarian categories. It showed that Michael wasn't just a pop singer. He was a universal artist who crossed genres, generations, and cultures. Perhaps most impressive is that Michael never stopped setting records. Even after his passing in 2009, his influence continues. His This Is It concert film became the highest-grossing concert documentary of all time. His posthumous album sales surged, breaking records once again. It's as though his achievements didn't end with his life. They continue to grow, like ripples in water spreading outward. So, fact number 4 is undeniable. Michael Jackson wasn't just a star. He was a record breaker, a living legend whose achievements redefined what success looks like in the music industry. Number 3. The King of Pop, a global icon. Titles in music are often given loosely. Plenty of artists have been called princes or queens of genres. But there is only one King of Pop, and that crown belongs to Michael Jackson. The title wasn't just marketing. It was recognition of his unparalleled global influence. Michael earned the name during the height of his career in the 1980s, when no other artist came close to his reach. His concerts weren't just popular, they were international phenomena. Crowds of over 100,000 people filled stadiums in countries around the world, from the United States to Germany, from Japan to Brazil. In Bucharest, Romania, during the Dangerous World Tour, his performance was broadcast to 60 countries and watched by over 250 million people. That's not just a concert, that's a global event. His influence stretched far beyond music. Fashion was transformed by his signature style, the single glove, the fedora, the military-inspired jackets, the white socks paired with black loafers. These weren't just clothes, they were symbols. Kids in Los Angeles, teens in Paris, and fans in Nairobi all mimicked his look. He wasn't just setting trends, he was creating a universal aesthetic. And then there was his power on stage. Michael's live shows were spectacles of choreography, pyrotechnics, and sheer charisma. Entire stadiums fainted, screamed, and wept as he performed. It wasn't unusual for fans to be carried out by medics after collapsing from excitement. This level of devotion was unheard of. The only artists who even came close were the Beatles and Elvis Presley. But Michael's reign spanned decades and continents in a way no one else achieved. What made him the King of Pop wasn't just numbers, it was connection. His music spoke to everyone. Man in the Mirror urged people to reflect and change the world. Black or White celebrated unity and racial harmony. Earth Song cried out for environmental protection. These weren't just pop hits, they were anthems of humanity. In the U.S., his title resonated as a part of the national story. America has always celebrated cultural royalty, from Elvis as the King of Rock to Aretha Franklin as the Queen of Soul. Michael stood alongside them but carved his own lane. His crown wasn't just about sales, it was about embodying pop music itself. Globally, the King of Pop became more than a nickname. In countries where English wasn't even spoken, Michael Jackson became synonymous with pop music. Children who had never seen MTV knew his moves. Villages without electricity still heard his songs on battery-powered radios. His presence was everywhere, from Pepsi commercials to humanitarian campaigns. When people called him the King of Pop, they weren't exaggerating. They were acknowledging the reality. Michael Jackson ruled the musical world with unmatched dominance. Even today, no other artist has truly taken the crown. Many have tried, but the throne remains his. So fact number 3 is this: Michael Jackson didn't just earn the title King of Pop. He defined it. His global reach, cultural influence, and musical legacy made him not only an icon, but the very embodiment of pop music itself. 2. Controversies and Trials. The Shadow of Fame. For all his brilliance, Michael Jackson's story was not without shadows. In fact, one of the reasons his legacy remains so complex is because his life was filled with controversies that dominated headlines for decades. From the early 1990s onward, accusations of misconduct, lawsuits, and intense media scrutiny followed him everywhere. Tabloids sensationalized every aspect of his private life, from his changing appearance to his relationships, often blurring fact and fiction. In America, late-night comedians joked about him constantly, and newspapers treated him as both a spectacle and a scapegoat. One of the most discussed controversies was the transformation of his physical appearance. Over the years, Michael's skin tone lightened, which led to endless speculation. He later revealed that he had vitiligo, a skin condition that causes depigmentation, and lupus, which made his skin sensitive to sunlight. But rumors persisted, with critics claiming he was trying to change his racial identity. Combined with multiple plastic surgeries, some subtle, others dramatic, his face became a subject of fascination and ridicule. Then there were the legal battles. In 1993, Michael faced allegations of child abuse that nearly destroyed his career. He settled one case out of court, maintaining his innocence, but the damage to his public image was severe. More accusations followed in the early 2000s, leading to a highly publicized trial in 2005. After months of testimony, Michael was acquitted on all charges. Still, the spectacle left scars on his reputation and health. The trial itself was surreal, broadcast live on television, dissected on talk shows, and debated in living rooms across America. Fans camped outside the courthouse, holding signs of support, while critics called him guilty regardless of evidence. It was as much a media circus as a legal proceeding. For Michael, these years were devastating. Friends described how the stress broke him down emotionally and physically. His once vibrant energy dimmed, and his reliance on medication increased. Yet, through it all, he continued to insist on his innocence and leaned on his music as both shield and outlet. It's important to acknowledge these controversies because they shaped how the world saw him. To some, he became a tragic figure, a genius brought down by scandal. To others, he was a victim of his own fame, targeted because of his wealth, eccentricity, and vulnerability. Regardless of where people stood, one fact is undeniable. Michael Jackson lived under a level of scrutiny few humans could survive. In the end, his controversies didn't erase his artistry, but they complicated his story. They remind us that behind the glitter glove and the moonwalk was a man who endured unimaginable pressure, judgment, and pain. Fame made him untouchable on stage, but it also made him fragile off it. Number 1. The Death of a Legend and His Lasting Legacy. On June 25, 2009, the world stopped. News broke that Michael Jackson had died in Los Angeles at the age of 50, and within minutes, shockwaves rippled across the globe. Websites crashed from traffic, TV networks interrupted programming, and fans flooded streets in mourning. It was one of those rare moments when billions of people, regardless of country or culture, felt the same grief at the same time. The official cause of death was acute propofol intoxication, administered by his personal physician. The details were tragic: a superstar unable to sleep, relying on medical interventions that ultimately proved fatal. His doctor, Conrad Murray, was later convicted of involuntary manslaughter. For fans, it was a heartbreaking end to a life already filled with so much pain and contradiction. But in death, Michael's legacy only grew. His memorial service at the Staples Center in Los Angeles was watched by an estimated 2.5 billion people worldwide, making it one of the most watched broadcasts in history. Celebrities, politicians, and fans all gathered to honor him. Smokey Robinson, Brooke Shields, Stevie Wonder, and even Michael's daughter Paris took the stage to speak or perform. It wasn't just a goodbye. It was a global celebration of a man who had given the world so much. In the years since his passing, Michael's influence has not faded. His music continues to sell in the millions. His videos remain iconic. His dance moves are still studied, imitated, and revered. Musicians from Justin Timberlake to Beyoncé to Bruno Mars cite him as their greatest inspiration. Even in hip-hop, artists from Kanye West to Drake acknowledge his impact on rhythm, style, and production. Michael's legacy also lives on in cultural milestones. Thriller was inducted into the Library of Congress's National Film Registry. His glove and fedora are displayed in museums. Streets, schools, and statues around the world bear his name. Each Halloween, Thriller resurrects him anew. Each new generation rediscovers the moonwalk and asks, "Who was this man who moved like magic?" But perhaps the most enduring part of his legacy is the way he connected people. He gave voice to the lonely with "You Are Not Alone." He called for unity with "We Are the World." He demanded reflection with "Man in the Mirror." His songs weren't just entertainment. They were bridges of empathy and imagination. Michael Jackson was a paradox. A man who seemed larger than life yet was deeply human. He was both celebrated and criticized, adored and attacked. But through it all, he remained an artist who gave everything to his craft. His story reminds us that genius often comes with struggle, but also that art has the power to outlive scandal, pain, and even death. So fact number 1 is simple. Michael Jackson's death ended his life, but not his influence. His legacy continues to inspire, challenge, and enchant the world. He was, and will always be, the king of pop. Michael Jackson's life was a story of contradictions, joy and pain, triumph and controversy, innocence and scandal. From his humble beginnings in Gary, Indiana, to his record-breaking achievements, from the moonwalk to the humanitarian work, from Neverland to the crown of King of Pop, his journey was unlike any other. He wasn't just a musician, he was a force of nature, a man whose music, dance, and message reshaped culture itself. Even now, more than a decade after his passing, Michael's shadow looms over the music industry. Every time an artist dances across the stage, every time a pop anthem calls for unity, every time a fan presses play on Thriller, his presence is felt. He was one of a kind, and there will never be another like him. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with your friends who love music history. Subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more epic stories about the legends who changed the world. And drop a comment below. What's your favorite Michael Jackson moment? Was it the moonwalk, a song, or maybe a memory of seeing him live? We'd love to hear your stories. Because when we celebrate Michael Jackson, we were not just remembering a star, we were keeping alive the magic of a man who truly was the king of pop.